Welcome to the ESX Experience webinar, Making It Count for ESX Attendees. Whether you've already registered for ESX or are planning to register your team, this new Making It Count program will put the information, ideas, and contacts you collect at ESX immediately to work for your company.
Our learning objectives today are very straightforward. Basically, what is making it count? And then, of course, why is that important? What are you going to get out of the program in particular? And how do you use these concepts? How does it work? And then finally, what do you do next? How do you get started? Today's speakers are John Galante, President of AEV, AE Ventures, the manager of the ESX show. Also from AEV, we have Nancy Franco, Executive VP, and myself, Virginia Williams, Director of Program Development, and also the ESX conference organizer. We did have a speaker from industry today, Don Childers, from Security Central in Statesville, North Carolina. And Don is also the advisory committee chair for the ESX conference. Unfortunately, anybody that's heard the news this morning knows that Statesville, North Carolina got hit by Mother Nature, who had other plans for Don today. So he's down there trying to keep the central station open, and we're all wishing the best for Don. Although it would be nice to hear Don and his usual flair, we still have his material, and he gave us some wonderful stories and advice to share with you. Very interesting and useful information overall. And so with that caveat, let's get started. We'll start at the beginning. What is making it count with John Galante? John?
Thanks, Virginia, and hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the webinar today. The picture of the gentleman on the lower right there is Joe Nuccio. Joe Nuccio is the president and CEO of ASG Security, and he's a member of the ESX Advisory Council, which Virginia had referenced before when she was talking about Don Childers. Every August, we get together and do planning. We talk about what the important industry trends are. We put together a kind of mock-up straw man program of seminars and special events, and really just work hard to address the needs of security integration and monitoring companies in the program that we're preparing for the next year. And we had gone through a significant amount of that exercise when Joe just brought up that he thinks the content and the information and the ideas that he's collected at ESX have been invaluable, but what his observation is that there was not a lot of assistance in helping the attendee companies put that information to work in their companies, and that there really needed to be more support for that. And that takes me to the leftmost photo here, which is the baggage carousel, right? I like to have opinions about business processes that I sound off on frequently. And one of my favorite dysfunctions to talk about is in the airline industry. They say goodbye to you at the door of the plane and they think they're done, but then you have the worst endpoint to your customer experience ever when you get down into baggage claim and you watch that carousel spin sometimes for 45 minutes without a human being in sight to tell you when your bags might arrive. So I think we as organizers of events have been a little guilty of saying goodbye at the door of the plane and not tending to the final steps. So that's what making it count is about. It's about us helping with these return on investment issues. Let's make your time and your money invested in attending an event actually pay off in terms of implemented ideas and programs back at your company. So that's kind of the 30,000-foot view on making it count. Nancy, can you advance one slide? Just to get a little more specific about it, you could call it a customer care program, as I alluded to in the previous slide. This is all about return on investment of both time and money for our attendees. The fundamental elements of the program are toolkits some activities to make the learning and advice a little more kinetic, and reminding to just make things happen. So the four main elements are the pre-show kit, which hopefully a number of you have received already in the mail and you can download from the website. That's full of guidance on how to plan an effective visit, an effective experience for you and your team at ESX. We also have a trusted advisors directory that we're putting together, which is going to be a tool to create connection points between our attendees and the leadership of the associations, the faculty of the conference program, and the suppliers. And we're asking folks to call out their personal specialties in terms of product and business practice so that you can find somebody who would help you fill your specific needs, who's raised their hand and said, I'm willing to help and give you some pointers. There'll be a lot of on-site reminders to make sure that your capture of the information, ideas, and contacts is solid and is with an intent to actually act on the information and contacts collected, and then some assistance on the post-show implementation side of things, everything from guidance to inspiration and some recognition programs to really incentivize better implementation. So those are the four main elements of making it count. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Nancy to take on item 1, the pre-event activities. Take it away, Nancy.
Thanks, John. And now that you have a foundation for what the Making It Count program is all about, I'd like to walk you through the pre-planning steps that we recommend. You'll find some helpful guidelines for this process in the Making It Count kit on pages 4 and 5. The first step in your pre-show planning is to conduct a needs analysis for your company. Now, we're not suggesting an onerous process, but rather a quick meeting with key staff to determine areas of improvement that can be addressed by attending ESX. The needs analysis should cover business practice improvements, product and service additions or changes, as well as employee development and education. Some business practice improvement questions you could ask could be, are there new software or business planning tools that we aren't aware of? What type of new revenue opportunities should we explore? Are there updated sales and marketing strategies we need to learn? And how can we implement installation and service efficiencies into our business? When discussing product and service additions and changes, you could ask yourself if your offerings align with the needs of your clients, or are there new services that would enhance your relationship with them? You could review current suppliers and their product performance and discuss new services or products you could be offering. You can also evaluate existing supplier relationships in areas that might need improvement. On the employee training and development analysis, you can determine if your sales managers are operating efficiently, if your general manager might benefit from rubbing elbows with others like him, or if your central station manager has the tools that she needs to perform at her peak. After determining your needs, after your needs analysis meeting, it's time to select your team. Determining who from your team is best suited to tackle the needs that you have outlined in the previous steps will help you accomplish your goals. ESX organizes its conference program by tracks that are designed specifically for different job functions within your company, like business development and management, central station operations, installation and service management, and sales and marketing. Page 17 of the conference catalog for ESX defines each of these tracks, and pages 18 and 19 provide an at-a-glance view of the seminars for a quick glance at the educational lineup, inclusive of the different track icons. After you've defined your goals, you'll want to align those goals with specific members of your team. You'll want to task them with the specific goals that will help you fulfill your needs determined during your needs analysis meeting. You should develop specific action items for each team member to accomplish while they're at the event. ESX offers quality opportunities for education, networking, and technology and product evaluation. Be sure to evaluate all of the resources from the exhibitors on the expo floor to the conference seminars, association meetings, and social functions when developing your goals and your action plans. We've developed some sample goals here that you can utilize as you plan your team's attendance at the event. The final step in your pre-planning process will be to plan your team's itinerary. which is key to achieving your goals at the event. We recommend that you elect one person who will handle your group's registration. Remember, registering your team of 3 or more together will afford you a discount of 15%. You should map out the sessions, events, and exhibitors that you wish to visit with during the show. Make sure that you are meeting with the right people by contacting exhibitors and peers in advance of the event to schedule meetings. And you can use the Trusted Advisors Directory in order to do that. You should ensure that each team member has a personalized itinerary. And remember to include on-site team meetings in your personalized itineraries. There's a lot to see at ESX, so remember, divide and conquer. I'm now going to turn it back to Virginia to review some on-site planning strategies. Virginia?
Thank you, Nancy. So, now that you've done all this planning and you've got your paperwork filled out, you've got everything registered, get on an airplane and you show up, then what? So the first thing you do is go to registration, right? You pick up your badge. Well, this year we have something new for you. There's a Trusted Advisors Directory along with the other literature that you normally get with your badge. And in this directory, we'd like to really get you to look at this as a reference manual. We expect to see a lot of people carrying these around, using them for notes, using them to look up people. In fact, the first thing you'll notice is that it is indexed. So you'll be able to find subject matter experts in whatever category you're particularly interested in. That might be a technical area that you need a little more training in. It might be a business type that you've been thinking about adding to your product mix. So using this directory, you should be able to find people, and you'll have contact information, be able to set up some business meetings on site even. We encourage you to schedule your meetings ahead of time, but of course, best laid plans, sometimes that doesn't happen. It's important to take notes when you do schedule these meetings, especially exchange cell phone numbers and that sort of thing. And as you have these meetings with the people that you find in the directory, you'll find space in the directory itself for writing notes for those meetings. In the back, in particular, you'll find forms, worksheets, checklists, tools, reminders, those sort of things. Look at those pages. A lot of people tend to overlook those, but that's really what makes the subtle difference in whether or not you remember everything that happened, that you pulled out the best ideas to share with the right people, and that you're organized while you're there. How many times do you get home and you can't remember what that was because you didn't write it down? So the last thing I want to mention on the Trusted Advisors Directory is there's a ballot. And this is also a new part of ESX, peculiar to this program. As you go around talking to people, you get ideas. You hear people in seminars, whether it's from the audience asking questions or from the lecturers where you would expect. You will find that those ideas are worth gold. Either to you personally when you get back home, it may make or break having gone to ESX in the first place with just one good idea. But a lot of those ideas would be useful to other people, or you're just on the fence, you know it's a good idea and you're not ready to implement. Write those ideas down. The ballot in the back is meant for that. And you'll find ballot boxes all around the ESX, places where you can turn those in. Extra ballots if you think of more ideas. At the end of ESX, there's a rally, and we're going to have a curated contest where we evaluate the best ideas, and there will be winners. So pay attention. It's a little bit of a fun way to incentivize it, but this is really for you and the inherent value of remembering the things that you learned and gained at ESX. Now, after the Trusted Advisor Directory, the next thing that you usually do is get together with your team. Everybody has sort of a first huddle, make sure everybody made it okay, exchange your horror stories from travel. And this year we want you to pay special attention to the signage. There'll be a meeting zone. We encourage you to have huddles, and more than just when you first get there. It's good to check in with your team. It's good to pre-plan when you're going to be able to do that. Of course, your business meetings come first in a lot of cases, and you might have to make some changes on the fly, so make sure you have a way to keep in touch with each other, and this could be a destination anchor point for you, whether it's for your team meetings or for business meetings even. After you review your goals with your team, it's a lot easier to be able to go off and do your action items with that one last check. As far as in addition to the meeting zone, as far as the on-site activities, you will find a lot of this making it count signage. You can see here a couple of examples where we've started using this already. Look for that. There'll be reminders there, things that you knew about but you forget sometimes. Like, did you ask the right questions? Do you want to go back and ask that lecturer just one more question? Did you get that guy's business card that you meant to? And what was the key point of this seminar? Step back and think about that. Who takes the time to do that? It's only 30 seconds sometimes. It makes all the difference. And write it down, of course. Put it in the ballot box. And one last thing I'll say about the trusted advisors is they'll be designated, so look for them. We'll have, in some of the social events, we'll have tables where you'll see tabletop tents that tell you this is a trusted advisors meeting area. And all of these are really meant to just reinforce things that you probably take for granted, but wouldn't necessarily think of on your own. Of course, in addition to all of these extra tools that we're giving to you, the structure of the show itself lends itself to social opportunities. And for most people, that is the biggest part of why you come to the ESX in the first place, for the social interactions. We provide structured environments that encourage you to engage in peer-to-peer exchange and even matchmaking from vendor to buyer, people that you're seeking out for a particular interest that you have. All opportunities that you can take advantage of. The whole idea is to get the most out of your time there. And after all, to get real results when you get back home. So to talk about those real results, I think we'll just move on over to the next one with John Galante again, talking about the rally at the end of the show. John?
Thanks, Virginia. So this is a really exciting new addition to ESX. It's actually the end point for the event. And we want the end point to be about your next step. So the Making It Count rally will be Thursday afternoon at the conclusion of the program. It's late afternoon. The structure of that rally will be, number one, to review some of the highlights in the seminar program by track. So there's 5 tracks in the program and a handful of super sessions. We're going to ask the track chairs to pull out what they thought were some of the key takeaways and discovered items on a track-by-track basis, just to refresh and get the juices flowing for everybody. The next thing we will do is, Virginia's talking about the entries. That will be about who has described an implementation plan in a convincing way. We will be assessing these entries to see who's got a great plan for implementing an idea back at the office, and we will be awarding a handful of the best examples of that and sharing that information with the rally audience so everybody can get an idea of what a good implementation plan for back at the office looks like. We'll combine with those two pieces change management advice, because that is essentially what putting these ideas and the information context to work is about. It's about implementing change. And there are structural impediments to change, as we all know. We'll provide some simple advice on how to get everybody on the same page to implement change, implement the ideas collected at the event, and we'll conclude. We're not going to do a champagne toast. You may see champagne in some of the original promotional materials. We're going to go to Prosecco, because the Italians deserve some consideration. So it'll be a Prosecco toast to toast the fact that we're going to implement awesome change over the many months after ESX. And for those of you who register with a deluxe pass, this will be inclusive. The rally will be inclusive, or you can register for this as an individual item for $59 during the early bird period here through March 31st. So Making It Count rally is kind of our launch point for post-event implementation. Can you advance the slide, Nance? Then on the back at the office side of things, we'll have advice for you, and some of this will be explained at the rally, and some of it will be at the on-site forums and in follow-up communications that we do with all of the attendees to remind them to do team debrief meetings and really get a firm handle on what the great takeaways were and what they want to take action on, and how to structure planning meetings with folks who weren't on hand at the event that you want to share information and ideas with. Make that a 365-day-a-year resource for you. And then the ESX Experience, which is part of the ESXweb.com website, is where you can also find tools for sharing. A number of the sessions historically and for the 2014 event will be captured with the audio and the PowerPoint. So if there was a session that you attended that's captured there in that regard and you want to share that with other members on your team, you've got an opportunity to do that. There's video capture, video interviews of industry experts. So lots of stuff in the ESX Experience section of ESXweb.com that can be used to spread the word within your company. And then just like we have these awards that are in place to incentivize planning for after the event, we're going to track that actual implementation and make some awards at the end of the year on companies who can document that they've actually taken an idea out of ESX and put it to work in their companies. And the awards will include incentives like team deluxe registrations at different levels. So there'll be valuable prizes, and I think this is going to, again, help us document best practices in putting ideas to work and get more people doing that in subsequent years for ESX. That's the post-event side of things. With that, I will turn it back to Virginia.
Very good. Thank you, John. This next section is an example of how one company owner, one who, let's say, gets it, already on having return on investment for ESX, has been using these principles. And as I mentioned earlier, Don Childers, the Chief Operating Officer at Security Central, provided this information. The team. Ralph and Christine Brown, along with their 3 children, own Alarm South and Security Central in Statesville, North Carolina. They have been attending ESX since the beginning, really, and they bring their whole team. Not all the employees, of course, but all of their senior managers. And just taking a look at this list, you'll notice that it includes not just the obvious candidates, the business development, salespeople, but also operations, 2 from IT, in fact. Of course, some of that's because their emphasis on the central station, but even from the Alarm South side, even if you don't have a central station and you run a service installation business, these are still basic job roles that people play. And so you ought to think hard about who is on your senior team and coordinate with them. As Nancy explained earlier, we have tools to help you do that, and there are different ways to go about it. In this case, the owner went around and talked to the various members. But even if you don't have a large staff like this, even if you wear the same hat for multiple jobs, you need to think about your attendance, your investment in the show, in terms of the functional payback that you expect. Before ESX last year, about this time of year, in fact, Ralph met with these various staff people. And because it's a central station, they have a 24/7 operation. So basically, meeting with 3 shifts does take a time, and it presents challenges in how you go about getting the team together. Fortunately, today we have a lot of virtual methods. You're able to talk to people one-on-one sometimes. You're able to teleconference. You're able to just send emails sometimes. It's the best way to coordinate. But whatever way works for you, it's still important that you do that. And it's important that you not only set goals, but very specific action items. In fact, the one key question you would ask to your staff, and keep an open mind, ask everybody, in fact, why should you go? Why should you go to ESX? If they can give you a good answer for that, you probably have an upstart in your midst, and you probably want to cultivate that. And if they give you a really good answer, then definitely send them, put them to work. The other thing you'll notice is that even on-site, Ralph thought it was important for his team to meet daily, and he put someone in charge of making that happen. And finally, when he got back, he did a very similar thing because of the nature of the business, met one-on-one with the key managers and asked them how did they make out in terms of their goals, their specific action items for the show, and what do they plan to do to share that information with their staff. Next slide. First person in the senior management is Eileen Mayhaus. And before the show, of course, her interest is business development. So before the show, her main emphasis was on figuring out which independent dealers she wanted to meet with, which opportunities on site she would have to meet with ones that she might not know about, but she knew they would be there, and what kind of sessions they might be likely to attend that she might want to stay around afterwards and see who in the audience asked good questions. More importantly, before the show, she prepared all this information. She wrote down what are the key questions I'm going to ask in these meetings, and she scheduled meetings with as many of the dealers as she could in advance. And while at the show, she remembered to take notes. She did it on her own. We didn't have the tools out just yet, but she used the principle, and anybody can do this. And it helps you remember to ask the right questions, but it also helps you remember what they said, which, believe it or not, sometimes can be a challenge. Finally, when she got back, she looked over her notes and she met with the other key people on her staff in the sales department because she came across a new approach, some new items that she wanted to add to the dealer program. Very tangible result. Next slide. On the technical side, we have two people, the CIO, who is Brett Springall, and another one, I didn't catch the name, that also went. So IT World was represented with two guys, which made for a very interesting experience. First of all, the IT guy was new, so he was getting OJT. And even for the CIO, it's really nice to have a buddy, someone that's on site that understands your particular focus on the show and is able to compare notes, coordinate with you, and even divide and conquer. There are a lot of sessions, and sometimes you have a business meeting that conflicts with one of the sessions, so you get some team action there, some synergy. And when you get back, comparing notes then is even more important. Dividing up what you found and, again, spilling that over to the rest of the team back home. Plus, in this case, they found a very tangible result in that instead of getting all the OJT from just your supervisor, now your IT guy has peers, people that specialize in this that can help benchmark his learning, his performance, and also to share best practices with. Next slide. And the ops side, Don himself, of course, went. Being the advisory committee chair for the conference, he was tied up mostly in seminars. However, he did have some spare time for some business meetings, and so he tried to schedule those as well. Most importantly, on-site, when he was in these seminars, he didn't just pay attention, write notes, and do the usual. He watched for who took the initiative to ask questions from the audience. Those kind of people tend to be, good people you'd want to get to know. And so he made a point of exchanging business cards with them. If anybody sounded like they were a particularly good speaker, Don is in the business of providing training, and he often credits the Browns for supporting that, which I'm sure even the Browns will admit is not just a generous gift to Don to allow him to do that, but it also comes back and pays back to them tenfold in the contacts that he makes, and his ability to judge people not in a sales situation, but in a just one-to-one personal situation to evaluate what their needs might be. In fact, the Browns say that Don's one of their best salesmen because of that. So keep an open mind about what training can do for you, and in this case, the payback for Don was that he found some new staff training opportunities through vendor training, vendors that he met at the show that were presenting in some of the seminars. Next slide. Also on the ops side, this is Kathy McBride. HR is sometimes an overlooked part of your team, but these people are also important. They see all of the employees in the company almost in the way an owner does. In fact, sometimes it is the owner. However, they are, in this case, having a dedicated HR person made the owner's job easier, both beforehand because she was able to put together an itinerary, collate all that so people could keep in touch with each other, and also that she was able to find some peers in HR at the show and valued the learning that she got from them. In fact, when she got back, she started an employee rewards program, which obviously the employees love. Sent them on some nice vacations for some of their exemplary performance at work. And then finally, our last team member was kind of an interesting case, and we weren't sure if we were going to put this in, but it does illustrate an interesting point. They had a new guy. It was a media communications person, and they did all the right things, but got a very interesting outcome. He was, like I said, new, so they took some time up front to coach him on what to expect and give him a very simple assignment to take pictures. Turns out this was not the work for this person, and he was completely overwhelmed at the show. They could tell it already, like on day one, and it didn't get any better. And when he got back, he quit, like immediately. In fact, he left under cover of night, Don said. So, moral of the story, sometimes you can expedite a bad hiring choice. You never know what you might get out of the show. So with that, I think it illustrates our example, and I think we still have a little bit of time for question and answers.
Great. Our first question will be directed to John. How much time should we take in putting together our pre-planning for the event?
Well, I think you made the point when you went over this, Nancy, that we're not expecting people to do strategic planning. I mean, this is a relatively straightforward needs assessment that should be done that pertains to business practice areas where you're looking for improvement, and on the vendor side of things, new products or new vendors and categories that you already serve because you have some level of dissatisfaction. And it's probably a 3 or 4 man-hour sort of thing. I mean, these should be quick meetings. It should be, go back and give it some thought for 30, 45 minutes, and then let's circle back. So I'd say, again, with multiple team members involved, it's probably no more than 3 or 4 man hours.
Okay.
Or person hours,
and
to be politically correct.
The next question I will answer, what kind of tools does ESX provide to share information with my team after the event? And John actually, I think, had mentioned our ESX Experience part of our website, which is a really, really great wealth of information for anyone who hasn't been there. It does require that you register. You just simply log on to esxweb.com/ESXperience, and you just need to create a username and a password. But once you do that, you will have access to past content from ESX events that have already happened. And then for the 2014 event, we'll be posting some of the presentations and also videos from some of the general sessions that have happened, that will have happened at the 2014 event. And you can see, again, past events there as well. So there's really a great depth of information that's available now for people that might be interested in attending the show who haven't yet, to get a sense of what they'll find. And then again, after ESX 2014, they can go there to share that content with people from their team who may not have been able to attend. So our next and final question is, are there any fun activities for my team at ESX? I think that John is probably best equipped to answer this question. Well,
we have a great lineup of networking events. Virginia made reference to that. It's all different styles. It could be very formal, kind of button-down activities, to things that are much lighter and looser. And for all of those breakfast, lunch, and kind of dinner functions, there's typically a component of content that's also informational and inspirational. But that stuff's fun as well as informative. Of course, we do have the ESX Crawl, which is kind of an event in and of itself, and that's just a great laid-back way. John Knox is really kind of the champion of the value of the crawl. That's a fun way for teams to bond. We've got the best dress contest at the crawl, and we do a best dress team. So, you know, if you can all get your cowboy boots and bolo ties and hats out and as a team dress up and see if you can win the best dress contest, that's a fun team activity. It's just Nashville is so full of opportunities for enjoyment and to build those team bonds on the fun side of things as well as all the serious business.
Thank you, John. And I like that last question. Anyone that's done any teamwork knows never underestimate the value of having fun. So what next? Well, that's an easy one. If you haven't already, go to ESX Web and download your kit. We have a direct link for you. Again, type it in. You'll get there straight away, or you can navigate there from various places on our website. And, of course, we want you to register before March 31st because that's when the discounts expire. And finally, get your team together. The next webinar that we'll have is also for teams. It's on February 20th. It's for exhibitors. So anyone who is interested in that is welcome to attend. But I hope you enjoyed this webinar today for attendees, and I'd like to thank you all for attending.